Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here. Now, this video intro will repeat on a number of videos, so if you've seen it, skip it. If you haven't, please stick around, particularly if you are invested in the channel, feel invested in the channel, feel invested in me and the work that I put out. I've just got 2 minutes to give you some updates. I'm looking to change a few things here and there and add a few things and improve your experience. So, first thing is, I just want to say huge thank you to all of you. You have no idea the impact you have when you like my videos, when you comment on my videos, when you subscribe, oh my god, when you become patrons. Unbelievable. You have no idea. The last couple of years have been wild. Second thing I wanted to say is there's going to be better podcast options for the interviews. You've been asking for that. You can already get it on iTunes if you look in the links in the descriptions. Give me a few days, but you should start to see more links pop up for other podcast options for the interviews. Third thing is I stream now, so please come find me. The biggest thing you could possibly do to support me and my channel is to follow and turn on the notifications for Twitch and at Born Free Twitch, and view. Even if you're multitasking, I've got to keep those views up to become partner. It's all part of the bigger ecosystem, which is the Born Free content and channel. And believe me, that is the biggest thing you can possibly do right now, and I would thank you very much for it. The next thing I want to tell you about is my Discord. There will be one soon. It's going to be small, it's going to be messy, but it's going to be a place for you to come, be a community, and give me many suggestions and feedback in regards to the content that you want to see, whether it be ideas for interviewees, questions, skits, subject matter, things to react to, whatever. And more importantly, you know, if you want to help in some way or get involved in some way, I'm really open-minded right now. I just want to grow, you know? I want to do cool stuff for the community, and particularly the community that is interested in what the work that I've been putting out. So the final thing to say is enjoy the rest of this video, and thank you very much. Peace out.
Still the life in favor of Anakin. Jimmy Tran gets chopped down.
Get off me, bro.
You go towards the wall. You go towards the wall. Oh my God, Jimmy Tran. Race mode. Can he find another blue thing? Can he do it?
Anakin takes it over Jimmy Tran. Throws up the A, takes the W.
Oh, job on
what
the stage.
A set.
Anakin, your Summer Jam 12 champion. The first USA man to win a Masters event in America.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here. I'm here at Red Bull Conquest in Washington DC, and I'm with Tekken God Anakin.
Tekken God Prime, actually. That's the rank that you get when you play online. I actually just came back from vacation on Korea, and one of the things I wanted to do was play online and become Tekken God Prime because it's such a coveted rank. So you gotta dress me properly when you...
Tekken God Prime Anakin. That's gonna be a Red Bull athlete, Tekken God Prime Anakin. I just have to find an acronym for that. I don't know what that is, but that'd be wild. So actually, let's start there real quick. Just got back from Korea. Tell me about that.
Well, I actually spent 2 weeks out there. Korea, usually I visit about every year to kind of just go out there and get a feel for the players. It's important because a lot of Korean players travel to the United States these days, strong ones, like worldwide top players. And I think it's good to go out there and understand, get a feel for the overall play style, because every region in the world, whether it be South America, North America, Europe, Asia, they bring their own play style to the game. The game is so deep, it's so advanced that there are a lot of different ways to play the game. And when it comes to players in Asia, they totally have like a different vibe about them. And I think that one of the keys to defeating the top Korean players is to understand kind of how they think. And that's kind of why I was there. 2 weeks, just training online, offline, a lot of just mental prep, since the World Tournament is coming up in about 2 weeks out there in Amsterdam, the Tekken World Tour Finals. So it was really just like a prep trip, I guess you could say. And I think I gained a lot from it, to say the least.
So, because I talked to Rip about that as well, and he said that obviously being around the best players in the world is really important. And when he went to Korea, he actually said when he came back from Korea, there's no way I can be the best unless I'm around these people. I mean, how do you feel about that statement?
I feel that it may be true to some extent. I think one of the advantages that a Korea or Japan would have is that geographically the land area is not that large, but they have a lot of talented players. And what you get is these talented players are within close proximity of each other, and they can oftentimes play together offline, travel, communicate, exchange ideas. So like the development of the talents are a little bit faster, I guess you could say. Whereas here in America, you have top players in California, you have top players in Atlanta, New York, all across the country. We don't meet on a regular basis. The only way we'd be able to play is through online. And since we're so spread far apart, the connection may not be that great. We may have like a little bit of lag, input lag, a little bit of latency. And it doesn't really create like true, genuine practice. I think that's kind of like the main disadvantage when it comes to getting all the best players under one roof practicing. And that was kind of like why I went over there. You get a lot of players all around you, and you got a lot of access to some of the best players in the world.
Did you play on arcade cabs?
I played online, on arcade, and also offline. I guess you said I did just about everything.
But are the arcade cabs updated, patch-wise?
No, which is why like that was probably the method of play that I went with the least. The game is outdated. There aren't like updated characters, moves, and everything. So it certainly wouldn't be wise to kind of play an outdated version with it being just like a brand new season and all, and Tekken World Tour finals coming up. You want to be practicing under the most recent patch. Yeah,
for sure. All right, so we're going to get into all of that actually, funnily enough. But let's start with this. Red Bull Conquest. This year they went multi-game sort of innovation team style tournament. Well, what do you think of it? What do you think about the tournament and the production and all of that stuff?
I think it's perfect. It's great. I mean, it settles kind of like two very, very big problems that we've had in the fighting game community. We've been hosting fighting game tournaments for like over 20 years, right? And two things have yet to be solved. Kind of like the bringing the communities together across different games, having players in one game be interested in another. So with this Red Bull Conquest team format, players are invested in how well their teammates are doing in other games, and kind of the viewers at home are invested in what the point standings are. And in order to kind of keep up with the whole thing, you kind of have to watch all the games, follow all the games, the players, and kind of like dip your toes in a little bit of each of the scenes. I think that's something that's really cool, and it's like a common problem that we encounter. People that play one game or a certain genre, they stick to their game and whatnot. And on the other hand, it's all about bragging rights. We got cities all across America who are so competitive, hungry, and for decades we've been battling it out, trying to claim that top spot, trying to go for bragging rights. But there's never really been a tournament series that it's kind of like made to determine just that. And Red Bull Conquest is perfect because it takes all the top fighting game regions all across America, puts them under one roof, and at the end of the weekend, we got one supreme champion who truly can say that their scene is the best fighting game community scene in all of America.
Right, it is definitely of benefit, I think, to have those communities kind of peeking at each other's games and wondering like, oh, my favorite player did well. Now let me just go look at Guilty Gear, whatever. I'm all for that, so I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, let's talk about you and Red Bull. You recently got picked up by Red Bull athlete, as it were. What's that whole process been like?
Oh man, it's just been it's ridiculously, I can't put it into words. It's really truly has changed my life, especially like with all the support that Red Bull has given the fighting game community. Like I've seen Red Bull events for quite some time now, and I've seen like how amazing they treat their players, their events. Like they really care about the development of this scene, and to just get the call and just initially like just know that it was even possible was like a dream come true to me. I never believed that it would even ever happen, just because like in my head I'm like, me, Red Bull athlete, like that would have never. If you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have told you never, and I would have told you to just stop trolling me, But here we are today, and Tekken is alive and well. Tekken 7 is such a great game. I know for a fact that Red Bull sees that, and they value like a game like Tekken 7. They want to have someone to represent the American scene, I think, and I feel like I'm just lucky to have been in a position where everything like lined up and was perfect. But the experience since then has been like really life changing. They give me like the best opportunity to kind of become the best player that I can be, become the best representative of Tekken that I can be. And I do feel like the stakes are a little bit higher now, that I'm not just fighting for myself anymore. I'm fighting for a lot more than that. And to kind of like be the first Red Bull athlete for Tekken in North America, I feel like there isn't like a precedent that's set. There isn't a blueprint on how to do a good job. So when I signed, it was kind of like a big deal to me to kind of get started on the right foot. I think this year has been really good for myself personally, for developing and everything like that. I had a really good year competitively, and I don't think that any of that would have been possible without the help of and support of Red Bull.
And in terms of that like help and that support, is there anything that surprised you? Anything that they did where you were like, oh, that's interesting?
Yeah. Without getting into too much detail, like everything is on like another level in terms of quality and just every interaction that you get with the Red Bull family across America, whether it be like people who work in corporate or like just athletes. It's like a whole new world that I'm just so curious about. Like it's amazing to learn, to see what you can learn as like a professional athlete, I guess you could say. It's still to this day, it's a little bit wild to say that, to think that, wow, this is really this is it. And I feel like this is only the beginning, like this, just joining Red Bull is kind of the start of something that, it's kind of validates what I've been doing for the last 15 years or so. I started off playing Tekken really young, just for the love of the game, love of competition, and it never really was about getting sponsored, getting this, getting that, but I'm just truly grateful that I can get this opportunity, and I just want to make the most of it, for sure.
Do you feel, I'm sure you do, but you are the #1 ranked American player in the Tekken World Tour standings, as I understand it. 10th, I think, overall. And obviously you got Red Bull backing you. That's a lot of, it could be, depending on how you look at it, that's a lot of pressure. Then again, you've been playing for a long time. What's going through your mind as you go towards the Tekken World Finals?
Well, certainly while there is a lot of pressure, when it comes to competition, it's something that I can kind of block out and zone out, because it is important to get in the zone and you're just like flow state when you're in competition. So when I'm actually competing, I don't really truly feel much pressure, just because of it's never really been my style to feel nervous and be pressured in tournament. And at the same time, Red Bull, it's not like Red Bull is breathing down my neck saying, if you don't win this tournament, better watch out. That's not how it goes over here. They're really in it for you, and they're just like it's a long-term thing. And I think that's really allowed me to play comfortably in tournaments throughout this year. I feel great. I feel like I've stepped my game up to a new level as a result. For sure, like you do want to represent Red Bull well. You want to represent your sponsors and people who support you, and you just want to show them that they made the right decision. And that's kind of like what I've been setting out to do this year, to show them that there was a reason that they contacted me in the first place, and that's really important to me.
So in a way, it's even more motivation.
Yeah, absolutely motivation rather than pressure. I'm the type that likes to see the glass half full. And when it comes to that, I don't ever really think negatively about, if I were to lose a tournament, what could the consequences be? It's rather just look forward, turn the page, and see what's next.
Okay. Now you mentioned getting in the zone there. It's kind of interesting. Were you just saying that as a phrase, or do you genuinely think about how to get into the zone and think about flow and all that sort of stuff?
At this point, I would say that it's all natural. I get questions from a lot of newer players that are not as experienced, talking about how to control tournament nerves. When they get on the stage, there's lights, there's the camera, there's house mic. There are a lot of it's I guess to the
in your face
it's a little intense. I can understand at first, but personally, since I started at a young age, it never was really a problem for me. When I first played on the big stage as a kid, it never occurred to me what the magnitude of everything was and what the stakes were. I was just a little kid having fun playing a game, trying to do my best. And I think throughout the years, it kind of just became like a natural thing that I was able to do. Just block out anything that wasn't relevant to winning a match of Tekken. It is true that you do have to get focused enough to block everything out, because there are times in the tournament match where the intensity is at an all-time high, where it's so intense and you have to be clutch. And if you're thinking about things that are outside of the game, you're not going to be able to fully focus on making the right decision, making the right play, taking down the win. It's really challenging when your mind is distracted, and when you're truly focused on the game, everything becomes a lot more clear.
So how do you actually have advice for how to get to that point? of being able to focus in on the game? Is it just practice? Is it just like reminding yourself? Is it taking a deep breath? Is it meditating? Is it something else?
There are a lot of things that you could do, and I think it varies. Actually, I've learned some secrets from Red Bull recently that have to do. We may see those in the Tekken World Tour finals, but I remember like my very first tournament. It was in like 2002. I was like 10 years old, 11. My father, in the car right there, he told me, don't worry, just relax, play your best, and it was just that simple. He told me winning or losing doesn't matter, and playing your best really is what counts. And in my opinion, I think that's like the best advice I've ever received, in my first tournament. And it totally makes sense. If you play your best and you lose, so what? Could you have played better than your best? Absolutely not. And you won't really look in like retrospect and kind of just wonder, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. If you don't play your best, you're gonna have those questions. And if you walk away from a game, having lost, having won, knowing that you gave it your all, you can hold your head up high, not have to worry about what you could have done differently, and look to the next tournament. The tournament will only have one winner. Everybody else will, come up short, fairly short, or whatnot. So at the end of the day, if you humble yourself in that manner and know that like it is a long journey, you'll be all right.
Now, talking of those days when you were a young player and you were, is that where your name came from, Anakin?
Yeah. It is. Long story short, I started playing Tekken around that time where Star Wars Episode 1 had just come out. If you remember Anakin, the little kid, in that movie they dubbed him like the Chosen One, and he was going to grow up one day to be the best player, prophecy fulfilled, bring balance, all that good stuff. And I was just a little young kid at the arcade, barely could reach over the cabinet sticks, playing with guys that were about 10 years older than me on average. They're a little bit older, and like these grown guys who are yelling and talking trash to each other, as you could imagine in an arcade environment. It was a little intimidating to me, so I didn't really talk much to them. I just kind of kept to myself and played. However, I think they kind of noticed that I had a little bit of potential, and they kind of dubbed me and gave me the name Anakin. And since I didn't kind of introduce myself, that name kind of stuck. And throughout the years, to this day, I'm still friends with those guys, and it's good to have grown up around them and learn a lot from them. Outside of Tekken, inside of Tekken, it's been a good journey, and it's a really cool story of the name, and I'm really happy that that's kind of the name that I got. You're not supposed to really nickname yourself, they say. Sometimes you're supposed to earn a nickname, and I think that's a good story to tell, the story of Anakin.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't actually know that at all. I think that's hilarious. I mean, I think it's hilarious in respect that
came true.
The prophecy came true, whereas obviously in the movies, completely different story. So I have more questions about that now that you've brought that up. When you first went to the arcade, did you pick up Tekken on your own? Like, before you went to the arcade, before your dad took you to a tournament, how did you get into Tekken? Was your dad into it?
Not really. It's a quick little story on that. So growing up in the small apartment complex, we moved to America when I was 3 from Vietnam. I got my first, I remember the first time I played Tekken was on the PlayStation 1 console. It was Tekken 3, and it wasn't my dad who bought it for me. It was rather a lot of kids in the neighborhood. We traded around our games just to kind of be able to play a lot of different games. And I remember just getting my hands on Tekken 3 one day, and I just had so much fun with it playing by myself. And I begged my older sister, I begged my dad to just pick up a controller and battle me. They wouldn't really know what they were doing, but they give me a fight, and we were just mashing buttons. And I remember one day, my dad used to take me to the arcade all the time, and I would play the redemption games where you would earn tickets, get a prize, some candy, or a little trophy and whatever. One day I was just at the arcade, I saw Tekken. I was like, a game that I recognized. Oh, this is Tekken Tag. It was Tekken Tag 1, a newer version of the game. I saw a lot of guys crowded around it. It looked a lot of fun. I wanted to give it a try. But I remember thinking the concept of it was, as a kid, I was like, I don't get tickets for this game. I don't there's no reward if I just go up here and I lose. It's I lose tokens. I don't get to I don't get to redeem a prize or anything. But once I got onto the sticks and I got my butt kicked by these guys, it was just kind of wow, that was good. And then as the months and the days went on, it became more gradually of me playing those types of fun games and casual games less, and just going to the arcade and playing only Tekken, trying to win a game, trying to beat these guys, trying to do something, because I could tell, like, you know, it feels good to like win a round on somebody and have the guys' friends make fun of them and tease them for losing to me. I remember that feeling really good to just like beat the older guys and beat the grown-ups, and that's kind of like how I got started playing regularly in the arcades.
And is that where, like, you know, nowadays we talk about tech, right? And in Tekken, one of the things when I talk to people in Tekken, they talk about field-based players and kind of more science-based players. Like, where do you put yourself?
Absolutely, I'm more of a field-based player.
Field-based player?
Instincts are probably my greatest strength, and the ability to understand my opponent throughout the tournament set, pick up their tendencies, and kind of capitalize towards the end. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You know, I take a little too long to understand my opponents, but that's certainly where my strengths lie. Not much of like a researcher, and you know, for the longest time I wasn't really studying frames like that because I wasn't even aware. Since I started as a kid, I would have never guessed that this game is truly that deep and we have like frames and all these different concepts. I was kind of just playing, seeing it for what I could, and just like learning my opponents in a simple manner, and from there I just grew to becoming someone who really was quick to adapt to my opponents.
So what kind of advice were the other players giving you back in those days? What kind of things would they say to you?
I remember just like, I kept to myself a lot. I was quiet, I was shy. Those guys were a lot older. So if there was ever anything that I wouldn't understand, or if there was ever anything that I felt that they were trying to take advantage of me because I didn't understand, and something that I could change, and if I were to pick up that concept and learn from it, I just asked them. They wouldn't, you can't tell a kid no. So if I asked them straight up, hey, how do you do that? How do you beat that? They would tell me. And that's kind of how I made improvements in my game. I also remember finding like websites on the internet, resources, kind of when the internet was a little newer. I remember a website, Tekken Zaibatsu. It was such a great online resource for players who play the game and wanted to learn the game. It was like a common meeting grounds to meet new players in your local area, but at the same time learn new strategies in Tekken. And it was just a slow process. You know, they say Tekken's a legacy game. It's been around for years, and for the most part, a lot of it has remained the same. And it's just been a gradual process of learning new things step by step, picking up things here and there, and getting better along the way.
So the game is probably more popular than ever right now, Tekken 7. Obviously, it's online. You can play online. I believe you're an advocate of playing online and learning stuff there. What do you think of some of the new blood? There's a lot of new blood, right? You were talking to me yesterday about this kind of storyline which is emerging, and I heard it at ECT as well. A lot of these online players who are coming out to tournaments. Has anyone caught your eye? Anybody to look out for?
I think it's great. I feel like every time that a new Tekken is released, or a new update comes out, we get this influx of players who try out the game for the first time. And the more players that are just trying out the game, the higher of a chance that you're going to get someone who has really good potential. You know, it's just a numbers thing. If not that many people play, then there's a smaller chance of you getting a prodigy, like a Speed Kicks or a Peeling to come out. Right. So when Tekken Tag 2 came out, that was kind of like the beginning of a new era where we finally have some new blood coming in, because up until then, like in Tekken 6, Tekken 5, Tekken 4, and on back, it was kind of like the same faces for the entire time. You know, you might get a little bit new blood here and there, but it wasn't enough to where you could say, wow, this is like a whole new group of guys. And I remember Tekken Tag 2 was it was like so refreshing to see, like new guys coming to the scene, trying it out for the first time, but at the same time, being very, very strong, showing a lot of potential. That's so rare to see in a place like America, where, you know, it's very hard to foster and grow the communities, find new players. And that was kind of the beginning of a new era, seeing Speed Kicks, Peeling, Run It Black, those guys come in so quickly and just going toe-to-toe with the country's best players. I felt like the scene was moving in the right direction. And now with Tekken 7 and Tekken as a whole being more popular than it's ever been, we're getting even more players that are like new and like showing a lot of skill. And from there, I think it's all about just getting your butt out to tournaments, getting that real life experience. If I want to name a few players, I would say we got a couple guys here represented at Red Bull Conquest, online qualifier, glaciating, a guy that's been playing since the age of 11, you know, familiar story, and now he's 16 out here doing his thing. He's in the top 8. We've got Akash, who's from Oklahoma, qualified in Dallas. So he actually traveled across state lines to get a chance of that, to get the taste of battle. And I'm really happy that players are finally seeing that it's worth coming out for and just trying it out. I think one of the problems is that people are hesitant to enter tournaments. They don't want to try it because they know they're going to lose or something. But like I said, it's not really about that. It's come out here, giving it your all, and see where you got.
Got it. So, it's good to see these guys who are online warriors coming out. Game's really popular. Let me ask you about the North American scene at the moment. Is it the strongest it's ever been right now? And what does North America need to do to potentially become the strongest?
I think that in relation to the other countries, it's remains somewhat the same. Like the landscape goes like this. You have, on average, the players in America are not as strong, of course, as the players in Asia, on average. However, you're going to always have guys that stand out and guys that excel. Jimmy Trans, you always got the Joey Furies, guys that can compete on the world stage no matter where they come from. Just because they're talented, they put in the work, they put in the effort. And in that case, it's kind of like remain the same. We're kind of like, we have a lot of work to do as a whole, but we got guys that I'll put my money on every day. And as far as like overall talent, we've certainly grown. Like I said earlier, it's a numbers thing. And now that we have so many eyes, so many players playing Tekken, we've got a lot more standout players. And I was saying earlier, now it's really about just getting them out there with the proper tournament experience and maximize on their potential, make them the best players that they can be. We're grooming these soldiers for battle, you know. Tekken right now has never been more competitive. With the Tekken World Tour being in the third year maybe, a lot of guys are trying to train up and really take it seriously, like on that level. It's a battlefield right now. Europe's trying to prove themselves. South America's trying to prove themselves. I think it's really great to be like real competitive. It's just so good to see now that it really counts for something.
So, do you feel so? At the moment, there are locals, there are online. I don't know that there's an answer to this, right? But basically, it feels like the one advantage they have in Korea is potentially the arcades, but then the arcades are not up to date. So, is there anything that the North American the North American community can do? Is there anything more they can do?
Oh man, right now, it's just a slow process. I think eventually we'll get there for sure. If we have people that put in the time, the results will show. I mean, you don't put in all the practice for nothing. If you trust the process, you do what needs to be done. I don't see why, one day why the best player in the world can't hail from the United States. Absolutely. I feel like we certainly do have players that are respected by players all across the world. And if that's really what it's all about, if you know you can play Tekken, it doesn't matter where you come from. And if there's anything that you can do, kind of like to help speed that up, I would say it's just make more of an effort to show up to your offline community. Really, it's kind of what the fighting game community was based on. We didn't start off having online games, and the inclusion of online fighting games have really only been something that came within the last 10 years or so. Up until then, it was more of like, go over to your friend's house, play, get better, and have fun. And I think if more people do that, I think that we'll continue to be in a good place.
So how do you feel about the game itself, Tekken 7? You've played a lot of different iterations of Tekken. How do you feel about Tekken 7 itself? What do you like about it? Are there things that you'd like to see change?
It's the perfect balance between, just being so accessible to new players, getting into fighting games, getting into Tekken, which has kind of been a problem before in the past. It was always considered a difficult game, a little too technical, but at the same time, they've changed a lot of it to make it more appealing visually as well to the casual audience. So when you're like watching as a non-fighting gamer, you see all the lights, the flashes, and the slow motions especially. It kind of draws you in. I think that's what kind of like the unique thing that Tekken brings to the table, the fact that it's really, really good spectator game at the moment. Every tournament kind of like, it never fails to deliver like the intensity, the action that a Tekken tournament can sometimes bring. If you ever go to like some of these fighting game majors, I feel like Tekken's usually one of the most talked about things or events by the end of the weekend. It's good to see. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, too greedy. I'm really happy with how far we've come already, just being in the scene for so long and seeing the trend just completely spike upwards like that within the last 2-3 years or so. Namco's doing all the right things, and I don't really have any suggestions as to like what they can do. Everything's been perfect so far. This game truly is the best Tekken.
It is also a very beautiful game, because like Tekken for years was so blocky looking. It wasn't really my deal. But now when they brought Akuma in, I was like, let me go check this out, and I was like, yo, this game is like really beautiful. Talking of Akuma, a lot of players that I talk to can't stand, old school Tekken players, they absolutely can't stand the guest characters. Now there's a bigger conversation here because I've been having this conversation with other people, which is who's more important, the players or the spectators, right? And obviously there's a balance, but there's no doubt that the crossover characters have brought all sorts of attention to Tekken. I mean, the minute Akuma was in there, and put in there respectfully, and put in the law. I mean, I didn't ask for that, but like, I'm a big Akuma fan, so got the old T-shirt right here. But there's players who say, I don't really like them because they bring in mechanics that aren't Tekken mechanics. They don't really play Tekken. Like, where are you on this whole thing?
Who's it to say that those mechanics don't belong in Tekken? Just because they're new, just because they haven't been in the game for a while, doesn't mean that they don't belong, they don't fit. I understand that those players may not want or may not agree with the new changes. Change is always something that can appear to be scary at first, right? Especially if you're playing a game where you already have so much to learn, they add a little bit more and you kind of just feel a little bit overwhelmed. However, I welcome all the changes, all the new characters, and with it adding a lot of different things to the game, it just gives you more things to work on as a competitor. These characters are unique, and you only find them in, for example, Akuma. You only have Akuma in Akuma. Like, there aren't any other things that you'll have to worry about in another character that Akuma possesses. So it kind of adds a lot of extra homework for just one character. I think that's where the frustration lies. They don't know where to really tackle, what to really understand first, because they already have all these other things that they need to learn. But like I said, who's to say that a character like Akuma or Eliza or Geese doesn't belong in Tekken? I think they were incorporated by Namco beautifully. Everything was flawless. It wasn't like that they were overpowered or anything. It's not like you see 50% of players in tournaments using DLC characters. It just gives more players, it just gives more variety as to a player and what they want to pick. If you don't like any of these characters, how about you try this wacky character that's like no other? And to have options is never a bad thing.
How did you feel about the patch? So there was 2, and then there was the 2, and then 2.1, and then 2.2, and most of those patches were fixing bugs, although I heard Lei Wulong kind of got nerfed. How did you feel about the patch overall? Do you think it was a good patch?
Yeah, Tekken's always going to change. They're always looking to update the game, make it more balanced, make it better for tournaments and casual players alike. Every time that they make a patch, Bandai Namco, or every time the game has changed, I look at all the changes and I can agree with. Everything makes sense. Every change is targeted for a specific reason, and if you just look at it in that way and try to understand why they did something, it's a lot easier to agree with. The game, if it never changes, it'll be stale. It'll get stale eventually, of course. So the Tekken has to find a way to stay fresh. So with all these changes, I welcome them. It keeps the game, really, really, really new. It feels new even now, despite being out for over a year and a half.
That's what Speakick said.
Yeah.
He felt like all the changes overall kind of changed the feel of the game in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I welcome them. I like changes. You don't want to just be doing the same thing for too long. It's kind of what makes a game a little bit too outdated, right?
They also added this wall bounce mechanic, right? Yeah. How do you feel about that?
It feels nice. I think Geese Howard had it. He was the first character to have it before they added it as a general thing for all the characters. Still, it's very early. Season 2 just came out. Tekken's not really a game where you're limited by your characters and what they can do. So no matter what character you play, no matter what changes they go through, if you're diligent enough, you're going to find a way to win with that character and succeed.
Okay. Have you always been you played Jack, right? Have you always been a Jack loyalist, or did you pick him up for 7?
It's been close to 10 years now where I've mained Jack exclusively for tournaments. Before that, I was playing this character named Roger Jr., the kangaroo character, and I've also dabbled with Paul Phoenix. Yeah, as a kid, I was mostly playing Paul Phoenix, a little bit of Jin, a little bit of Roger Jr. I think it was Tekken 6 where I made the switch to Jack.
Why do you play Jack?
So I switched to him in Tekken 6 about almost 10 years now. I think I kind of found my character. In Tekken, it's a lot about finding your character, finding your archetype as a player, your tendencies, what you like to do. Since there are so many characters, so many strengths, so many weaknesses, you could take quite some time before you find a character that truly fits your needs and wants. I feel like I found that with him. and his basic ability to break down opponents in Tekken 6. So I remember winning like a very, very, very big tournament, an MLG Championships, where at the time it was like the largest prize pool in Tekken history. And I came like, and then there was like 2 phases at that tournament where there was an open qualifier bracket and then like a final part where it was invitational. So I qualified through the open bracket, I ran through, and at that tournament I remember not really being considered a threat or a factor to win take down the whole thing. And I kind of like won it with relative ease. In a time where it was really Korean dominated, you had like the knees, the JDCRs there, and for me to come out of nowhere and kind of like beat everybody up, it was like really the sign for me that this was who I need to be rolling with, basically.
But you'd already picked him. So what made you pick him in the first place?
I think it was more about just putting behind Roger Jr., my previous character. It was a moment where I like lost really badly in a tournament to someone who played the same character, and in my mind I was like, that's clearly a sign. And then I began to give Jack a little bit more attention offline, outside of tournaments. I played a lot with my buddy Poke Chop. Well, I remember back then, like, we had a really heated rivalry, just like trying to become the best in Atlanta. We would always trade games, trade sets, and I remember I would attribute a lot of that, like, soul searching and finding my best character to just practicing with the guys in Atlanta. They were really helpful with helping me figure out what my tournament character was. Basically.
What is it about that character that you feel suits you?
People consider him to be a basic character. In some ways that's true. He's big. He doesn't have a lot of moves that you see a lot. So his strengths are that it's effective. He's got a lot of range, and it's a very straightforward game plan with him. And you don't have to worry about a lot of gimmicks, shenanigans with Jack. It allows you to just play straight up Tekken, break down your opponents. And I said earlier that I was more of an instinctive player in that fashion. So that's why like the 2 things line up for me. You have Jack and you have myself. And it's a perfect combination.
Got it. You ever think about, do you have side characters? Do you ever think about switching characters? Or you're just like, Jack can do everything right now?
When you reach a certain level, you're pretty much able to play every single character, especially if you're competing in tournaments. When you prepare for every single character, you kind of like find yourself dabbling in a little bit, playing a little bit here and there. I played just about every character and learned kind of why they were meant, what their strengths are. It keeps the game fresh for me, and as a result, I'm able to learn a lot about like how to fight against them in tournaments. But as far as using them in tournaments, I wouldn't feel comfortable switching to any other character until I felt like that character has surpassed Jack. And at the moment, I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like Jack is, compared to my other characters, my roster, he's on another level.
Yeah.
He gives me the best chance to win, and until I feel differently, I'm going to continue rolling with Jack. There was a time last year where I played a little bit of Paul, went back to my roots a little bit, found a little bit of success. But even then, while I won tournaments on the tour with Paul, I can kind of see internally where he lied on the totem pole. So it's really just like something that I evaluate for myself when it comes to figuring out who I want to play.
Got it. This is a random question, and people don't always have an answer for it, but you ever heard of unpopular opinions on Twitter where they're like, here's my unpopular opinion? Like, do you have an opinion which you feel like everyone would be unpopular and you just want to put it out there?
Sure. I think that right now, especially in like the American community, people value too much their online rank or just like where they stand or where this and that is. They're very, I understand it's really excited to reach a new level or threshold or whatnot, but at the same time, we mentioned that online practice may not be the best representation of true offline Tekken. And if you can take it for what it is. You ranking up, you reaching a new threshold is an indication that you're getting better as a player, but by no means does it mean that you being this rank is absolutely better than this player at another rank. And I feel like people kind of fall into that trap and they think that, I'm so good now. I'm as good as everybody that's this rank, but it's all circumstance in the world of online Tekken. If I just avoided everybody that I would lose to online and played only characters I'd beat, I'd probably, you could reach the highest level, highest rank. And, rank, it's a shiny, nice toy, but it doesn't really mean anything,
What's your God Prime?
No, I mean...
I'm just messing with you.
I mean, Tekken God Prime, it's cool, but even then, like, that was when the real Tekken began. when I reached that rank, and I started playing other Tekken God Primes. That was kind of like, I guess you could say Prestige in Call of Duty, where you like reset your rank and you're playing all the other guys. Yeah, it's really just like it allows you to play players with similar level, and that's really all it is. That's why rank is good, but it does not determine how good you are as a player. People value it too much. When they lose their rank, they feel like they're getting worse, and so that can kind of bring a negative mindset to you that you really don't even need.
So let me talk about the characters in general in Tekken 7. Rip told me that he felt like you can win with just about anybody. Do you feel that it's a pretty good balance, or do you feel there are some characters that are too overpowered, or there are characters that are slept on? What's your feeling of the overall field of play?
It's been that way since the beginning of time with Tekken. It's known for its balance and every character's ability to beat every character. That hasn't changed with Tekken 7. You see Lucky Chloe, you see Kuma, characters that are considered by many to be among the worst in the game, to go out there and make top 8 at some of the most prestigious tournaments in the world. You know, a lot of guys out there are going to put in the work. Lower tier characters oftentimes means that they're underused, so that kind of brings an advantage in tournaments where people may not be prepared for your character because they don't expect a lot of people to be using them. I see that happen all the time, where people have those holes in their game where they don't cover the less popular matchups. And so there are advantages even to playing a lower tier character. Yeah.
Are there any characters that you hope come back in the future?
Yeah, 2 in particular. Like I said, Roger Jr., I like him, I like his style. But one of my personal favorites also is Ganryu. He's just always been fun to play with, no matter what Tekken is. So the level of fun with Ganryu is just really good. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen him already, so that's kind of why I'm pretty confident that at some point we're going to get everybody's favorite sumo back.
And your response to Neegan?
Great. I've seen Walking Dead. I've seen a little bit. The character himself, you know, in the TV show, he's really such a badass. And in the comics, I heard he's even more of like a savage, right? And of course, that's a totally different character than what you would expect coming from a Tekken game. But for me, as someone who's been playing this for so long, new is good, change is good. Yeah. I'm very excited to see how Namco will incorporate this character, because they did such a great job with all these other guys, Noctis, Geese. I only expect good things, and I'm super excited to get more information on Neegan.
Cool. Let's switch to players. Are there any players out there right now that you feel offer you the biggest challenge?
Oh yeah. Right now, Tekken has never been more competitive than it is now. Tekken World Tour brings out the best in all the players. Esports is growing. Red Bull is getting behind Tekken. A lot of different esports organizations getting behind Tekken. So a lot more people are hungry. It's not like it was 10 years ago where the same players would win every time. I think that everybody's a threat, and you gotta have to work a little harder. You cannot take anyone lightly. This tournament, I got upset by 2 players, and that's just kind of like evidence that you kind of just have to take everybody seriously. No one's, just to push over anymore. But yeah, a lot of players, you can just look to the leaderboards, to the standings. Sure, you can keep track. Tekken World Tour has a global leaderboard, and I think they're really, indicative of where everybody lies when it comes to like world standings, world rankings.
And again, talking of players out there, maybe now, maybe in the past, do you have favorite players to watch, or do you have your most inspirational players, and why?
Oh man, now we're going down memory lane. I feel like as the Tekkens start to come out, I will find new players where it's like, wow, I really like the way that guy plays Tekken. I really like the way that guy plays this character. But just a few names to throw out. I enjoy watching these players' particular styles because they're so unique, and I feel like only they play the way that they play. Players like Nobi, for example, who can be so hyper aggressive in your face, where it's like you can't believe what comes out of that guy's character. You can't believe what he does at times. I enjoy watching Nee play because he's a master of all the characters, and people may not know this, but he's been doing this all his life. Play all the characters at the highest level, beating you with your own character, and that's kind of been his MO the whole time. It's just now he's starting to do it in tournaments. That's the only thing that's new about it. And I remember in the past when I wanted to learn a new character, I would just watch Nee, because Nee would show you the best way to play your character. And that's been the case for the last 2 decades. Nee is just good money always. I like Saint. We play the same character, but he just plays Jack and so differently from me, you know. I think that he picks up some things from me, and I have a lot to learn from him. And like, if you were to ever put those two players together, you probably get the best player in the world of Tekken, or the best Jack ever, you know. I really enjoy just unique styles in Tekken, and those guys, you know, Jimmy Tran is always a fan favorite due to what he's able to bring to the table. The technicality of like his gameplay, his style is just really cool, you know. So anybody that brings a new style to the table, I really enjoy watching them play.
Got it. I want to switch gears a little bit, for some of the people who are up and coming, watching. So many people playing Tekken right now. Do you have a training schedule? And if you do you know, what kind of, can you go into detail a little bit in terms of like what you do? Is it every day? How many hours? What kind of things do you do?
So right now I'm lucky enough to like take Tekken full time, like take it seriously, put all my time into it. I maintain a healthy balance between like actually playing the game and just trying to improve my game outside of playing, like maybe video review or just like brainstorming and just like mentally discussing with yourself how ways you can change your game, because there is such thing as like burning out, playing too much and kind of like going backwards in progress. If you play too much, you know, you kind of just go autopilot, you pick up bad habits, and I'm kind of careful about the time that I spend actually playing Tekken. I'm always conscious about picking up bad habits, playing players that will train me to do things that I shouldn't do against some of the world's best players. So like when I play Tekken, it's really about playing the best players, or playing players that are relevant to like improving my success chances in the tour. So I play online a lot these days, especially during my stream. It helps me get character exposure and exposure to various styles. You know, Tekken is such a deep game that when you play different players, they always bring something different to the table. You can always learn from a player, whether like they're at the highest level, intermediate, whatever. There's always something that you can work on when you play. And as far as specific number of hours, it's full time for sure. But maybe one day I'll play 8 hours of Tekken. Maybe one day I'll play a little bit less. You know, there really isn't like a 9 to 5 set schedule. But I will always be thinking about Tekken usually.
Are you at this point in time, you just generally grinding, or do you spend a certain amount of time in the training room? Do you watch videos? You know, because there's other aspects.
Yeah, I think with the Tekken World Tour, it's added more of like a seasonal concept to it, where at the beginning, you know, you're starting off, you're seeing how you do, and so as the year picks up, you know, you kind of want to make those improvements. You want to be peaking at the right time. And that's kind of like what I've been focusing on now, with just like there just being 3 weeks left before the big show, the World Finals. I'm trying to do everything I can to get my mind, get my game in the right position to take down these players and ultimately win the world title. It's a big part of why, I mean, it really was the entire reason why I spent that time in Korea. Just clean up my game a little bit and become the best that I can be, or become the best player that I've been this year. And I think I've yet to play my best Tekken this year. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to getting a chance to prove myself. Yeah, every player does things differently. Like I said earlier, there is like no blueprint on how to be the best player.
Sure.
There is like no coaching or everything. Every player takes it upon themselves to kind of do what they do.
I was going to ask you about your preparation for the Tekken World Tour. So part of that is going to Korea, and I don't know how much of the game plan you want to give away, but clearly you know by now pretty much who you're going to play. Like, you know who's going to be there. That's a big difference between turning up to an open tournament. So do you study videos of those players?
Oh, easily. I've been studying videos of players that I know are going to be threats at tournaments since I've started going to tournaments. If you don't do that, you're not doing all you can do to win the tournament, and you're probably not winning a tournament. If you don't at least study your opponent, you know, every time I watch a video of a player, I learn so many things from just watching, right? And since I won't get to play a lot of these players in person before the tournament, that's all we got. We watch the videos, we pick up some habits, tendencies, and we formulate a game plan. If you go into a tournament without a game, or a match without a game plan, you're going to spend the first half of the match coming up with a game plan. So you want to just have something set in your mind, a way you want to play, an approach you want to take. And I would say that a player that comes to mind who's really good at doing that is Joey Fury. That's a big part of why he's really successful, is that he's so intellectual when it comes to his like approach to the game. He's such a smart and intelligent player. I feel like his game plan is always perfect. That's how he's able to make these really, really good tournament, take these wins against like Saint, JDCR. He's won matches against the best of the best, and I think it's largely in part to like his preparation specifically for these players. I've seen him scroll through his phone with all these notes on guys, and he really does take it to the next level, and that's kind of like what I'm working towards, to be more like him.
Okay.
It's all about the game plan. It's all about, especially a tournament where you're not playing a first to 10, you're playing a first to 2. It's like you got a story to tell. So do you have the first page of the story or not, or or have you yet to write it? So I want to come into the tournament set having already written like a basic layout of what I want to do and take it from there. I mean, that just makes sense, right?
Yeah, it totally does. A couple of other things I wanted to ask you was, do you watch your own replays?
Yeah, I try not to watch the losses. It sucks to watch yourself lose.
A lot of people say that.
I think a lot of people, I've heard that many times, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. It hurts. It stings to relive it. If I do have to watch a loss, I'll put it on mute. Okay. But it is you have to. If at some point you gotta watch. What I like to do when it comes to watching my losses, I'll put it off for a while, and after a while I'll revisit it to see how far I've come as a player, and that's when it really becomes apparent, like how far you've come, the time, the effort you've put in. Like I'll watch a video of myself losing, and I say, there's no way I do that now. There's no way I do that. Oh, right there. I do something differently. You can kind of see, like, yeah, it's different now. So if I watch my losses from like just last week or just yesterday, there isn't much that's gonna have changed in that time. So there really isn't much. There isn't much purpose to watching yourself lose if you don't know what you're looking for. But if you watch yourself win, it feels great. You're like, maybe I could do more of this. You're just like, it's like reinforcing the things and the ideas that you think may be effective and good. So you can learn more from watching that, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right, so we're going to round it out now. So I just want to ask you, general fighting games. A lot of fighting games out now. A lot on the horizon. Ever think about playing any of the others? Do you ever play any of the others, or is it just unrealistic?
Yeah, usually I try to play all the fighting games if there's ever time. Usually in the past, when we're waiting for a new Tekken to come out, or like a Tekken has started to die off, I'll pick up a new fighting game, play like a little bit of, whatever is popular at the time or whatever had just been released. But since Tekken 7 came out, it's been all Tekken 7. This game is so good, and it's just captured my attention so well that I really have no need or want or any feeling. You
haven't touched Soul Calibur?
I touched Soul Calibur for a few days, but that's about all I'll do. It's a good game. These games are great, but Tekken, in my opinion, it's so good right now. I wouldn't want to spend time playing any other game. I'm all Tekken.
And do you play general video games or no?
Yeah, I think that I kind of have like an addictive personality. So like in the past, when I was younger, before Tekken, the stakes were this high, I dabbled a lot in like strategy games. I like multiplayer games. Your typical single player games, Grand Theft Autos, Tomb Raiders. I've never really been a fan of that. Gaming alone, it feels a lot better when you have somebody that you defeated, an actual human opponent. So that's kind of like the games that I gravitate more towards. For example, like StarCraft, Warcraft, other fighting games, any games where you're beating other players. I even enjoy Fortnite a little bit. It's a fun game. It's good to, maintain a balance. Just don't play one game. I'm not as much of a gamer as like your average gamer. I'm more of like 95% Tekken and then 5% other games.
That's a small percentage, but yeah, wow, I can't imagine you playing Fortnite. I think that's hilarious. All right, so in your life, right now, I imagine you're very focused on the Tekken World Tour, but what kind of things, just to give it a window into your life, what kind of things are you interested in outside of Tekken?
I follow a lot of sports, to be honest. I feel like there are a lot of parallels to draw between this growing world of esports and sports. So I like watching sports. I'm just a competitive person by nature, so anytime that I get a chance to try something new and to test myself, it's something that I'll always like be down for. So sports, working out, weightlifting are some of the things that I've taken up recently. So in addition to fighting games, but yeah, I like to go out just like every other 20-year-old and just live a healthy, balanced life. And that's pretty much it, you know.
Sounds good to me. I got one other question for you before we wrap this up, and the card. Actually, the card's going to fill up in any second. Do you have like a quote or a mantra or something or a way of living? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific quote, but when you get down or when you feel defeated or something, is there something that springs to mind which inspires you that you can share with other people?
I always just try to keep a positive mindset about everything. Things that you don't have control over, sometimes people tend to like feel down about. And if you don't have control over it, what's the purpose? What's the point? I see all the time about how like a positive mindset can really have a really large impact on your overall well-being and your health. You know, people who like are more optimistic, you know, it just works out better for them, and it's just like kind of how I've lived. You know, I don't want to be ever a bad person. I try to just, you know, do the right thing, and that's kind of like, I guess that's my phrase. Just do the right thing. You know, have a little bit of integrity. You know, there's a lot of people in this world, and it would just be a little bit easier for everybody if, you know, you just tried your best to be a good person. That's about it, really.
I think that's great advice. And I think that's obviously a key to internal. I hate using the word happiness because it's an overused word, but certainly I think if you have integrity and you're true to yourself, you do the right thing, then I think you won't have anything eating up at you inside, you know? So, lovely advice. I think that's a good way to sort of finish up. Is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to say to the people who are rooting for you in the Tekken World Tour, or your fans, or your whatever, Stream Monsters?
Make sure you guys check out the Tekken World Tour December 2nd, I want to say, in Amsterdam. The last chance qualifier is going to take place on Saturday. It's been a long year. It's been a long year. A lot of guys put in a lot of travel, a lot of time to have not made it. So the storylines, the stakes, they're also so high. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see who takes down the title. Other than that, I guess you guys can catch me on Twitch. I'm on social media, TK_Anakin. It's all about the Tekken for me, and you're always going to find me doing what I can to move Tekken forward. And that's kind of it.
Perfect.
Appreciate it, you know. I appreciate all the support. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, listen, this is going to run out, so I'm going to say thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate the time that you've given, and we're going to say goodbye to these guys. So, see you guys.